In 1916, local entrepreneurs Richard and Daniel Guinan purchased 88 acres of land known as Ryan's Farm in Barnesville, Pennsylvania. They turned the land into a place for locals to swim, picnic, and dance. Little did the Guinan brothers know, they had begun a tradition in their little corner of Pennsylvania's coal region that would host the big band era's brightest stars. An amusement park and recreational area that would give families a lifetime of memories. They had given birth to the area's most enjoyable family fun spot, a little place called Lakewood Park. Already successful owners of a chain of area department stores, Richard and Daniel Guinan developed Lakewood Park to provide area families with a place to enjoy their leisure time.
My uncle never went beyond 6th grade in school, and he became the superintendent of schools in the area. He was a tremendously important and a friendly, willing to help anybody. And he always took pity in most of the poor people, because he knew what it was.
A large man-made lake was available for boaters and was the perfect spot for picnics beside the water. In the early 20s, the lake was enclosed to become an enormous 150-yard swimming pool. A cool stream also ran through the park, giving visitors a place to keep cool during hot Pennsylvania summers.
The mothers and fathers, they knew there was no alcohol in the early years. Later there was. And he said, we knew they were being taken care of, and if they acted up, they would be put out.
The conservative dress code of the day made swimming an interesting experience.
My first job in the park was in the bathhouse. Now, the bathhouses that they rented were 100% wool. And if you ever seen a bathing suit made out of wool, and you get in the water, you got a tough job to move the thing. But everyone was put in there in steaming hot water, that there was no germs.
The popular dance hall hosted nationally touring bands as well as local acts.
They sang on a microphone, which is about this big, and 2 speakers. Now, the hall was enormous with these big wooden arches and all imported Brazilian wood, and the floor was the same. So the sound really was terrific, despite the fact that it was one little microphone.
As the popularity of Lakewood Park grew, the notoriety of their featured performers also grew.
Ella Fitzgerald. She came on an amateur show in New York, in a very famous black theater. And she told me, she said, the reason I went into it was I was too cold standing outside and freezing. So she got in this amateur show, and she won it. And that started her in the business.
Through the years, Lakewood also offered boxing and wrestling matches, animal acts, rodeos, and some shows that weren't as easy to describe.
We had a band from Pottsville, and they would play songs for people in Pottsville, primarily people who were in the hospitals. And the man who was buried alive didn't show up. Howard Hobbs, he said, Larry, can we sneak you down the hole before anybody arrives? So I used to be the man, I was only a kid, the man who was buried alive. And he'd say, how is it down there? And I'd say, it's terribly cold, I can't stand it. He said, well, you don't be down there long, you know. And he said, the next song we're going to play will be just for those people that were incurable down in the such and such hospital. He didn't say what it was. It was, we're going down the valley one by one. We had so many people calling, what do you think doing this, or who do you think you are? And, oh, we never got over that one.
Excitement about upcoming acts could cause quite a stir in the community. One appearance by the famed crooner Rudy Valley created the most extensive traffic jam the area had ever seen, not only making entry to the park difficult, but complicating things for the Guinan family themselves.
It took at least 35 minutes to get here. And he recorded nationwide here. And it was a deep secret that he was playing here. I mean, that he was going to go nationwide. And some stupid people said, yeah, it's going to come from Guinan's living room. Oh, they broke our porch. There were so many people there. After we chased everybody out, the people left. We had a maid, and she said, I will make a meal for everybody. So Rudy sat over in the corner talking to my father. Rudy was a very nice person. And the maid went over to him and said, Rudy, you're no better than anybody else. Get up there and wash the dishes and also eat with Mr. Guinan. He said, I'll do that first.
In Lakewood Park's heyday, rail travel was the most common way people reached their destinations. The park's close vicinity to the East Mahanoy Junction of the Pennsylvania and Reading Railroad made it possible for visitors to easily hop a train and enjoy the park's many amenities. And visitors to the park weren't the only ones using the rails. Prior to her movie fame, Doris Day sang as part of Les Brown's Band of Renown. Just starting out, and without her own car to drive to the show, Doris boarded the train just like thousands of other visitors to Lakewood Park. In one of his many performances in the 1940s, Tommy Dorsey and his singers the Pied Pipers performed. As usual, the audience was treated to the vocals of some very talented, young, up-and-coming artists. Who was one of those sweet voices? A young Frank Sinatra.
Tommy Dorsey was a wonderful help to Frank Sinatra. He taught him how to sing, really. And I don't think he ever forgot it. I don't think he would have been a star without Tommy Dorsey.
Entry to the park was extremely affordable for the time.
The admission was 40 cents for girls and 60 cents for men. You hear that price today and see what a movie is. These were live bands.
By far, the most attended show at Lakewood Park featured musical star Vaughn Monroe in the 1940s. A record crowd of over 6,000 people attended just to catch a glimpse of the very popular entertainer.
Vaughn Monroe would come to our house and fix my train around at Christmas time.
As the years passed, different generations of attendees flocked to the park to experience the next wave in popular music, rock and roll.
I saw Sammy Kaye, Spike Jones, some of those names. But when I was in high school, it was more like the Everly Brothers, Dick Clark, Grady and Hurst, who had a show in Atlantic City. Stars like that for freshmen, Bill Haley, Teresa Brewer, Platters. They were the stars of our days in the 50s.
Stars of the 1950s like Bill Haley, Spike Jones, and the Everly Brothers kept teenagers rocking around the clock, while Lakewood Park became a central hub for music, dancing, and family entertainment. Other venues in the area benefited from the region's reputation as the place to have fun. Just down the road, featuring a lake and beach of its own, was Lakeside Ballroom. With an enormous dance and dining hall, Lakeside Ballroom could accommodate similar events to Lakewood Park. As Lakewood and Lakeside competed with one another as dance and concert halls from the 30s to the 50s, attendees from all over the area flocked to both locations to enjoy music, court their love at one of the many dances, and create memories that would last a lifetime.
You could roller skate, you could do games, you could do swimming, you could do anything almost you wanted to. They had an old mill, which you rode in, like the lovers rode in a boat in the dark. And then they had concession stands along. You could play ring toss, you could play bingo, you could play all kinds of games along the roller coaster there on the side. And also they used to have rodeos there at one time, horses and cattle. It wasn't a big area, but it was enough for a rodeo.
Lakeside Ballroom is still in operation today, catering to a new generation of audiences looking for a night out with friends, a chance to enjoy newer, more contemporary acts compared to the big band and swing eras of the past.
We've had Bruce and USA in here, who is the best tribute act to Bruce and the E Street Band that you could possibly find. We've had Separate Ways, which is a Journey, Bad Medicine, Bon Jovi, Livewire, which is AC/DC. We've had Hollywood Nights, which is Bob Seger, Frankie Valli, Ray Charles, Neil Diamond. We've had from Canada. They came down. Harold Ford and the Cash Band. It's a tribute to Johnny Cash. we've decided to go the tribute band route to bring the people from the area into an establishment to hear some of their favorite groups without paying the astronomical prices.
We have had access in here, which is child care development, people that help with the handicapped, and we've had American Cancer Society in here with their Chinese auction. And both of them had successful days when they were in here.
Lakeside Ballroom remains as the last reminder of the area's historical musical presence.
There was a pretty big lake there. I think it's about 22 acres was lake. Had a beach house. It had boats, boathouse, and swimming area. Somewhere in the 1980s, the dam ruptured and it was never repaired. And now it's a wetlands.
Coming up next, as the music of Lakewood Park attracted visitors from far and wide, the rides of Lakewood Park entertained everyone, young and old. Lakewood Park's Midway was always full of couples holding hands, parents chasing after their children, and people just generally enjoying the beautiful tranquility of Pennsylvania's coal region.
This was painted by a watercolorist in 1956. He was an artist who just visited the area and chose scenes to paint. This depicts Kittyland in Lakewood with some artistic representation. People will remember the old brick fireplaces where they cooked their bean soup, and then there was the airplane and the boat rides, the cars, the kiddie roller coaster, as we called it, the stream where children played all the time, which went throughout the park, and then the little train went around the whole big area. Over here were the small little stages where Sally Starr, Chief Halftown, the Jordan brothers, all kind of got their start. Not Sally and Chief Halftown were big time, but the Jordans got their start there.
Kittyland was a popular favorite for all ages, featuring rides like a Ferris wheel, bumper cars called Dodgems, a child-sized roller coaster, and the crown jewel of Kittyland, the flying horses. This spectacular 52-animal carousel was manufactured by the Spillman Engineering Company and featured a wide range of hand-carved animals, including horses, giraffes, goats, and lions. As the merry-go-round spun, the fun was accompanied by a Wurlitzer organ built in 1908. The flying horses remained a fixture in Lakewood Park until its sale to another park in 1984. As seen in this tourist video, the flying horses are still delighting thousands of tourists a year in their new home in the Van Andel Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This historic carousel has even been ridden by some very famous people in its new location. During the Van Andel Museum's gala unveiling of the ride, President Gerald Ford and his wife Betty were on hand to open the attraction. Since trains were such a vital part of Lakewood Park's history, it is fitting that the park would have its own train, or at least one that was just the right size for kids. The train, made by Chance Manufacturing, rode around the perimeter of the park and allowed the little ones to take a break between rides. For the more daring attendees on the wetter side of Lakewood Park, there was the scooter. But don't let its cute name fool you. This tall water slide required riders to carry a heavy wooden toboggan up at least 30 steps. Once at the top, riders were treated to a thrilling drop and 100-foot glide over the water.
The most dangerous ride in the park was in the swimming pool, and you went up very high, and you came down that toboggan. Every time I see it coming down, I think, who's going to go into that thing? But nobody was ever hurt. That was a gift of God, really.
Other popular rides included the Lindy Loop, a canopy-topped ride featuring old-fashioned sleighs on rails, the Octopus, which raised riders up and down and spun them in two different directions, and the Looper, which would somersault riders backward and forward. These and many other rides combined to give visitors a dizzying experience. All of the rides at Lakewood Park could be ridden for an admission price of $5 to 25 cents. Of all the exciting ingredients that made Lakewood Park unique, the concessions and food are probably the most remembered. The Althoff family of Mahanoy City sold hot waffles to crowds out of their motorized cart in the 1920s. They also made candy apples and other delicious treats in their peanut sundae stand near the park's skating rink. From that spot, concessions were delivered to 4 other food stands throughout the park. Other typical fair foods were offered, including hamburgers, hot dogs, French fries, and a unique local favorite, homemade soups. The mountain and coal regions of northeastern Pennsylvania are a rich melting pot of cultures. Families from many different countries immigrated to the area in the 1800s, and their proud family traditions were still alive and well during Lakewood Park's reign. As a tribute to that diversity, Lakewood often hosted different ethnic days in the park. Lithuanian Day celebration kicked off the tradition as far back as 1914, and over the years the park was host to Ukrainian Day, Polish Day, Italian Day, and just about every other ethnic background that made up the area's population.
The other thing that I remember a lot of was the ethnic days at the park. Ironically, the longest running festival, or just day, ethnic day, was the Lithuanian Day. And that began in Lakeside. And I actually didn't even know that until I started researching it for the book. But sometime about, I'm not sure, 1923 or 4, it came to Lakewood, and then from then on till the park closed.
But the big deal of Lakewood Park would be Lithuanian Day, August 15th. You had to go down Friday night to get a table for Sunday. And then you sleep on the table Friday night and Saturday if you wanted to have a table for Sunday. You know, my cousins from Mahoney City used to go down all the time, and they get 4 tables and have 4 people come down and sleep on each of them on a table for Friday night and Saturday night, so they have a table for Sunday. Yeah, if you didn't get there early, you didn't get a table.
In keeping with the tradition of ethnic celebrations, an annual Bavarian festival was started in 1969 by local man Kermit Dietrich. Dietrich's dream of an authentic German food, music, and craft festival was made possible by the perfect atmosphere Lakewood Park provided.
Dancers, great at the Clydesdale horses, and just fabulous, fabulous time. The first ballroom, which was converted to a skating rink, and the big hall both had music all day long, and lots of vendors selling German crafts and German things like that.
The huge dance hall, with its vaulted ceiling and other multi-purpose buildings, allowed the festival to grow tremendously well over the years. Between 1969 and 1984, the Bavarian Festival welcomed as many as 100,000 visitors in a single year. Coming up next, famed stage director and producer John Kenley brings Lakewood Park a touch of the theatrical with the birth of the Lakewood Theater. In 1947, co-owner Daniel Guinan and his wife met with well-known stage director and producer John Kenley to discuss bringing his summer stock Broadway productions to Lakewood Park. On a handshake, Daniel agreed to build a theater for that purpose, and in 1949, the Kenley Players opened to a packed house at Lakewood Park.
But then Lakewood had the Kenley Theater over there too. They had a lot of shows over there. A lot of people went there during the wintertime, during the summertime also. There was a lot of people that were there where they were famous, like Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, Van Johnson, and a lot of them were there for different shows, and the singers were there.
Shows like South Pacific, Guys and Dolls, The King and I, and many more were staged by a combination of local actors and traveling companies. The pace was lightning fast, with many shows being fully rehearsed and produced in a week or less for a weekend performance. Through the years, many popular actors graced the stage of Lakewood Playhouse. Actors like Tom Poston of Bob Newhart fame, comedian Red Buttons, television's Ava Gabor, and even a young, apprenticing Alan Alda were all part of the company's productions. Hard-working local actors and musicians also participated in performances. The local chapter of the Society for the Preservation and Encouragement of Barbershop Quartet Singing in America was a notable local show, led by Lakewood family member Frank Guinan. After over 40 years of Lakewood Park being a part of people's lives, the popularity of the park began to decline. In the mid-1960s, the pool was closed, boating ceased, and only the Ethnic Day celebrations and a few rides remained in regular operation on weekends. Kermit Dietrich's Bavarian festivals kept things alive until the 1980s, but it was soon evident that Lakewood Park's heady days of music and fun were behind her. August of 1984 saw the final Lithuanian Day celebration, and the very next day, the park closed for good. In the following years, locals wondered if the park would ever reopen and bring back some of the magic of the past. Then, on May 1st, 1998, a devastating fire burned the Lakewood Ballroom to the ground. Since the ballroom had closed, the empty building had been a favorite hangout for local teenagers. It is believed that a small campfire in the building sparked the blaze that brought the memorable dance hall to its end.
As a child, I've had nothing but Lakewood Park. And some of the things sound fantastic. I don't know how many people in my lifetime have come up and said to me, Larry, this is my wife. We were married because we went to Lakewood.
To this day, when someone mentions the name Lakewood Park in our area, chances are that someone in the room will have a story about what it meant to them.
When my husband and I were dating, we loved to go boating at Lakewood.
Weekend swimming at Lakewood Park are some of my fondest memories of childhood.
I'll never forget going to see the Jordan brothers perform on a Sunday night.
Our prom was at Lakewood, and I had my first kiss on the Ferris wheel that night.
While the fun and excitement of Lakewood Park can no longer be experienced firsthand, the memories of what it meant to our region will endure for generations to come. For more information on the history of Lakewood Park, check out the book Images of America, Lakewood Park by Arcadia Publishing. It's available through the Mahanoy City Public Library or online wherever books are sold.